This is 6-4, and we are simplifying radicals to the nth root. So for the first part, you're just going to use a calculator. So on your calculator, you're going to put in radical 230, and you're going to go out 3 decimal places. So you have to round the next decimal place over. So when we do that, so for 230, when we're rounding it, so we are going to go out 1, 2, 3 places. So we either keep that 5 or it goes up 1. Because there's a 7 next to it, it makes it go up to a 6. So we have 15.166 for that one. Now on number 3, there's a negative on the outside of the radical, so our final answer is going to be negative, but I'm not going to put that part into the calculator. I'm just going to put in the radical 152 and then round it and make my answer negative. So we're going to go out 1, 2, 3 places. Since there's an 8 next to this 8, it goes up to a 9. So we're going to call it negative 12.329. This is the cube root. So on your calculator, you need to find the cube root button and put in the 88 and round it 3 places out. So we wind up with 4.448. And on this one, the negative cube root we can do. We can't do the negative square root. So the reason why we can do this is because a negative times a negative times a negative is a negative. And when we round it, on this one we wind up with 6.055. Okay, and on number 9, our answer is plus or minus 9. Because they purposely put that plus or minus there, we put it in our answer. Number 10, we're just going to call it 12. Now, the difference between number 11 and number 12. So this one is in parentheses. This one is not in parentheses. This has a positive base. This has a negative base. So if I square 5, I get 25. But then when I take the square root of 25, I wind up back at 5. Now on this one, when I have a negative that I'm squaring, so I'm really doing negative 1 times 5 times 5. So the answer to this is negative 25. And I can't take the square root of a negative number unless I use the I. So this is 5i. Now, if I had this as my base, in parentheses, negative 5 squared, then my answer, when I go to evaluate this, I'm doing negative 5 times negative 5, and that's positive 25. That I can take the square root of, which is positive 5. So big difference between having parentheses around a negative base and not having parentheses. So be careful with those. When we have a fraction, I can take the square root of the top number and the square root of the bottom number, and since there's a negative here, my answer is negative, so negative 2/9. So you're just going to use the calculator for most of these. And then when we get to the ones with the exponent, with the variables and exponents, now we have to think about our absolute value rule, which applies to this one. So the answer here, the final answer, is the absolute value of y. So the rule is if we start off with an even and we wind up with an odd, because don't forget there's really a 1 here and 1 is odd, then we need the absolute value. And again, I explained in class that it has something to do with the negatives. So how are we going to remember this? We're going to remember the word Oreo, E-O at the end. If it's even, then it's odd, then we need the absolute value. Okay, so for number 21, first I take the cube root of 25, which is 5. And since this is a 3 and this is a 3, remember the easy shortcut rule is you just divide your exponents, so this is going to be C. And the even-odd rule only applies when we have an even root. So since this is to the 3rd root, we don't even have to think about that. We don't need to think about it here, but we do need to think about it here because that's the 4th root. Okay, so on number 23, the third root, or the cube root of negative 27 is negative 3, and 6 divided by 3 is 2, so that's 8 to the 2nd. Then on number 22, square root of 64 is 8, 6 divided by 2 is 3, so that's x to the 3rd, again in your absolute value. This one we just have exponents, we just divide by 2 because technically there's a 2 here. This is m to the 4th, p to the 2nd. They're both even, so we're good. My final answer is going to be negative on this one, so negative 10 p squared t. The t needs the absolute value. Here I'm taking the 4th root of 16, which is 2. This 4 divided by this 4 is 1, which is odd. even then odd. And then 8 divided by 4 is 2, so then that is v squared. And then on the last two questions, when we have parentheses, we keep the parentheses in our answer because this really means I have negative 3c times the fourth 4 times. When I take the square root of it, I only need 2 of them. So I'm keeping the parentheses and it's to the second power. Same thing with this one. Keep these parentheses, a plus b. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so it's the absolute value of it. And that's it.